we got to start this conversation a little further upstream. We got to, as a community of people, we have to start getting things lined up more respectively in their orders. Not that you're hoping or planning for something to go wrong, but so that when it does, it's not so cataclysmic for either both, or at least at a minimum one of the two parties involved. So here's what I want to do with the Pooja. 3 common financial pitfalls of divorce. Can we talk about this? And can we get in front of this problem?
Yeah, so the 3 that I put together is the first one is overlooking assets, the second one is hidden debt, and the third one is letting your emotions control the money. So
okay, good.
Overlooking assets, and a lot of these don't just apply if you're getting divorced. A lot of this is just becoming well aware of your financial situation regardless.
It's almost like estate planning, kind of.
It just becomes a bigger problem when you are getting a divorce and you're not aware of a lot of these things.
Well said.
So overlooking assets, some of the things that people generally look over is, do you have retirements or pensions left at old jobs? Is there a cash balance to your life insurance?
The one I remember you talked about
the biggest one is when your spouse has a business.
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
And when that spouse has a business, they generally are running that business. And you may or may not have very little to do with that business. You may work for the business or you may not. You just let them run the show. So when somebody owns a business in a marriage, it's kind of a black hole if you don't know what's going on. Sometimes you don't know what the actual business does. Surprisingly, sometimes you don't understand what the business does or how they actually make their money. I can tell you one case that we worked on was that the business was something to do with tech. And honestly, my team didn't understand really what the business was and what the actual product was. It was highly leveraged, massive investors. It was supposed to make millions when this product came out. The opposing party, she did not know what was going on. So something like that would have helped her know if she wanted to stay in for the long haul for when that glory date came in, that payday came in, or not. So that's something to understand, is what the business actually does, how the business is actually structured, what your spouse, is it a sole proprietorship? Is there other partners? How much debt is running through the business? So that's a lot of unknowns if you've got a business in your partnership of a marriage. Especially because, and in San Diego, this is a common thread, we're an entrepreneurial bunch. Yes, right? Very, very many small businesses in San Diego. And when I know this to be true, I'm a small business owner. I'm in the trenches, so to speak. When you're developing it, you're putting all of your blood, sweat, tears, and resources into that typically. So a lot of times that is your net worth. It is. And even if it's not in the context of divorce, it's good to know what the business is about and how it's run, because that spouse who's running the business, something may happen to that spouse. God forbid that they may pass, right, or even become disabled. Yeah. So it's good to know still what is going on with that business. Yeah, that's a big one. So that's overlooking assets. Yes. And a big chief element up there, headdress and all, is when one spouse typically owns a business and the other one doesn't have. They're in the dark about it. Yeah. Okay, good. So what's number 2? I thought hidden number debt, 2, right? Hidden debt. Yeah. There's things that you might have. You might owe money on back taxes, property taxes, unpaid medical, hospital bills. The hidden debt that I wanted to just touch on is credit card debt. Many times, dun, dun, dun. Yes, many times, sometimes a person won't know that their spouse has credit cards in their name until they actually have the divorce, because you don't need your spouse's permission to go and take out credit cards in your name only. Especially when one person's running the money, which is a lot of times the case in a family, right? One person does the money, the books or whatever, maybe, you all kind of break up your roles. That's not by fault of anybody, just by default it can happen. And it's not even the one who's running the money. I mean, I've seen cases where the spouse just has all these store credit cards and racked up from shopping, and they have no idea the context of what money that is coming into the family. So there's also that. But credit cards, even through the legal discovery process, credit cards are a treasure trove. I can't tell you some of the things that we discover on credit card statements. We've found gambling. That's how we can tell if somebody's been gambling and taking out cash advances in the casinos, online gambling. So you can kind of go big brother on them to make a case. Yeah, I mean, and sometimes that's the first time that somebody's finding out about this is in the divorce. So that's why I'm saying that hidden debt, I mean, just to become aware of what's going on in your family's financial picture. Yeah. We found, I mean, things like eHarmony charges
Ooh.
long before divorce is even
That's one.
started.
That's one step away from Ashley Madison or whatever it's
It
called.
is.
Isn't that what it's called? The right? Isn't it Ashley? Yeah.
Ashley Madison.
The cheater website or whatever. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So we found things like jewelry store purchases where the spouse
Ooh.
is asking, well, what jewelry was purchased there for this amount?
Yeah. Pooja bringing some truth up in here, right?
Oh, this is true. This
Yeah.
is what we've seen. That's
Yeah.
why I say credit card statements
Treasure
are
trove. I love that
treasure
thought. I
trove.
love that thought. So we got the overlooked assets, big one, the treasure trove of hidden debt. But what's the emotional one?
So emotional one is, you're going through the divorce process. You can't take the emotions out of it. You have to recognize your emotions, but you've got to also set them aside in order to make some good financial decisions for you, your future, your children's future. One of the most emotional issues we deal with is the marital residence, the house you live in.
Hallelujah.
And you know
Yeah.
about the houses. So,
Yep.
a lot of times people want to stay in that house, especially if they've got children, because
Right.
they really identify that as the security for their children.
Maintain some form of consistency in the chaos of a divorce. Makes sense.
It does. It makes sense, but it can be at the cost of your financial future.
Yeah.
A lot of times when the household income is split, one person cannot maintain the cost of that residence anymore with the mortgage, the interest, property taxes, the maintenance, all of those things. And usually that house becomes too big for one part of that family too. So letting go of the house is a big big emotional obstacle that somebody may have to go through.
It was a Freudian slip too. Yeah, absolutely. That's what you're trying to avoid with that stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of times, sometimes people will then have to buy out their spouse's interest in the house, and a lot of times they do that with offsetting retirement accounts or stock investment accounts and things like that. So that's where the disparity really comes in, is that stocks and retirement accounts will continue to grow over time, whereas a house is a very stable, yes, it can go up and down with the market, but it's generally a very stable asset. It's not liquid. You're putting a lot of money that goes directly into interest. Well, yes, there could be a tax benefit for that, but it comes down to that many times that one person who has kept the house can become house poor. Any money they're receiving from their income or any contribution from support from the other party is going towards the house, and they really can't afford it.
And so the coalescing of these three things, it's almost as if, like, if you could manage this conversation a little bit earlier in the process, you can avoid
Yes.
a lot of the main problems that you have to unravel in your private practice.
Correct. Which is what I do. I start posing this issue and say, hey, start thinking about this. And usually by the time when it comes down to it, most people accept and understand the consequences of keeping that house. They've had some time to kind of process to be able to let that house go. And I tell people too, it's not, your kids are going to be okay wherever you are.
Yeah.
It's not the attachment to the house. Yes, you can miss the house. And yes, I can tell you a personal story. My parents got divorced when I was already an adult in law school. And I was so upset that we had to let go of the family home. And I was an adult, mind you.
Right.
And my parents made the correct decision of selling the house. And it was, I was devastated because I thought I wouldn't have a home to go home to. Because next time I would go home from law school, it would be someplace different. But now, I understand now.
Yeah.
So in hindsight, I can't fault my parents, even though at the time I was not a happy person.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I understand that emotional attachment.
And that's one of the things that I'm kind of sort of gleaning in between the 3 points that I know that makes you might say, unique from a lot of the people that kind of occupy the space that you have a strong, like, financial kind of background to your education, business kind of stuff. And so you're looking at that through that lens. You're almost kind of giving, like, I'm not saying you are, but it's almost like a form of financial advice is sort of embedded inside there to make sure that they're not leaving anything on the table when going through it.
Exactly. Yeah, I do come from a financial background. Yeah. It wasn't my dream to become a lawyer. I wasn't one of those that, went to college wanting that. I kind of steered down this path.
You didn't wear pantsuits in high school?
No, I did not. I did not.
Teresa, you didn't like that one? That was for you.
I wore a uniform.
Can you do me a favor?
Yes.
You were mentioning some type of really. It's almost like a checklist or a guide that you have on your site that really helps sort of.
Yeah. So if you go to my website, my firm's website, which is Sachdev Family Law, SACHDEV.
DEV, right?
FamilyLaw.com. Go to the contact page and just send us your information. And you can just put Truth Radio, Jesse's awesome, whatever you want. I'll know where you're coming from. So
Preferably the latter.
For this part, I do have a checklist for the 3 common financial pitfalls of divorce.
Yeah.
There's many financial checklists you can find online. I drafted this one and made this one to be some of the more uncommon things that you don't think of. So you can definitely find a lot online, but this one is a little bit more tailored to the ones that most people don't think about.
And that it's a guide, I want to say, right? It's kind of like making sure you're prepared for sort of like the what ifs. You might want to frame it sort of as that, like when you know, if you can put in a little bit of time, energy, and attention into the structure, it's going to save you tenfold. Not that you're planning on things going wrong.
No, and a lot of these things you should know about regardless if you're
exactly.
going through a divorce or not.
They're sort of universal.
Yeah.
With a very helpful checklist as well. That by the way, is over at SachdevFamilyLaw.com. That's SACHDEV FamilyLaw.com. Or you can call Pooja the old-fashioned way. That's 619-866-3756, right?
Yes, exactly.
So, gang, coming up, believe it or not, there's another $10 word that Truth Nation's going to get their hands on. It's called mediation. And you're going to want to reacquaint yourself with this. And we're going to hang out with Pooja on that very topic right after this.